We tell the stories of innovators, people doing things differently in the Niger Delta, and most importantly, with a social impact. My name is Benedicta Ayerite, and this is Upshift with Benny. So today we will shine our spotlight on the Bayelsa Tech Hub. It is an enterprise and technology development center. And to help us understand their vision better, we will be speaking with Mr. Asieri Odusi. He is the manager of the hub, in charge of the day-to-day activities, and also the project manager here. Mr. Asieri, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So the Bayelsa Tech Hub is the first of its type here, and it is a very welcome development to Bayelsa. So can you tell us a bit of what you do here and the services that you render?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that the Bayelsa Tech Hub is powered by the Bank of Industry, and then it exists to establish two broad objectives. The first one is to see how we could use technology to drive SMEs in Bayelsa State. So we want to have a situation where businesses move from just being the regular normal buying and selling to the point where they begin to use technology to drive their business better. And then we begin to have startups bettered from this region that can now shine the light of Bayelsa State in the global arena. So we want to have people who can be the likes of the Paystack, the likes of the Uber, that are creating innovative solutions that are also businesses and then can solve problems in Bayelsa State, but it's also scalable globally.
All right, great, very good. So how long have you been in operation in Bayelsa?
So the Bayelsa Tech Hub has been in existence for a year now. We officially was inaugurated or launched on the 4th of November 2019. And since that time, we've been growing strongly in different areas. So one important thing that we've been doing, beside the first objective of bringing businesses up to speed in terms of technology, we also are introducing young people to the vast opportunities in technology. So we prioritize different tech training programs, from computer programming to web and mobile app development to cybersecurity, and a whole lot of programs to equip our young people with those relevant skills so that they can compete with their counterparts globally.
When you said young people, something caught my attention. Do you also have programs for the youths on the street? How can we draw them from the streets, so to speak, and get them involved into technology?
Okay, when I use the word young people, it's there is no social class in terms of the young people, so it cuts across everybody and anyone. We believe that education as a case study is something that everyone should have. And so in terms of technology is where we do tech STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and maths, is an aspect of technology where you're bringing in people to getting them to understand the basics of science, the basics of technology, and how they can use it to better their life and the society. So we do programs, training programs, and then we target everybody, every young person, regardless of the location. So there are some kind of programs, intervention programs that we do, and then we go out to the streets, and then we get young people, bring them to the hub, and then get them, get them to know about the happenings around them and how they can use these basic technologies to begin to solve problems. Presently, we have a young lad that is on his sponsorship at the Bayelsa Tech Hub. He's just somebody that just has an energy to create. And then we saw him through the help of a particular few organizations, few philanthropic individuals, and then they brought the young lad to us. And then he has been here for not up to 2 weeks, but the boy has been building massively. He has built his own robot, and then he can control it with a microcontroller. And then presently he's trying to build his own drone. And so if you look at him, he's somebody that on a normal, you see, you want to use the lens of classify and say, okay, this person cannot do this kind of thing. But then we are amazed with what he can do. And then we have a lot of people like that they didn't come from a rich family and all the rest, but then they have this drive to create, and then so we create the enabling environment and the opportunity for them to begin to learn how to build in technology.
Very applaudable for what Bayelsa Tech Hub is doing. So how has the services been offered here? How has it contributed to the socioeconomic developments, the landscape in Bayelsa in the short time that you have been in operation?
Okay, so first of all, there are four cardinal service areas we provide at the Tech Hub. The first is the provision of co-work spaces. So we understand that a lot of people coming into technology would have certain obstacles or restrictions to making them skill or do better. So one of them is power, another is internet connectivity. So the Viosamtech Hub provided or provides rather workspaces where people could actually have access to, and then they have access to power and internet for them to be able to do their business better. So just consider the cost of going to, say, probably you want to rent a shop and then start to furnish it, and then you get a generator and start spending on fueling, and then tax people start running after you, and then the whole process is overwhelming. So the Viosamtech Hub has co-work spaces that has allowed young people, and not the only young people, but other people, to be able to have access to the workplace where they can now do their business with ease. That's one of the areas. Then the other part is the trainings. So we're able to train, interestingly, even when the whole COVID-19 pandemic was at its peak, over that period of time, we trained about 1,233 people in Bayelsa. We launched an online training program that's powered by Google, and then we trained them through fundamentals in online marketing. So a lot of people, business owners, they could learn how they could use social media and the internet space to actually drive their businesses better. We also launched another one that focuses on how people can begin to use productivity tools like Google Meet, Google Sheets, and there we trained about 837 persons. And
All this in the pandemic season.
During the pandemic season. Yes, so that was one of the milestones or the things that we achieved even within that time. So even when we came out of the pandemic, and we have had on-site training programs, we've trained about 537 persons on different tech skill areas. So some of them went through programs in cybersecurity, some in computer programming, some in embedded systems and robotics, and it's just been amazing with the value that we've been providing in terms of human capital development. And then this has really changed the mindset of a lot of persons around here, and say, oh, this is actually possible in Bayelsa State. Before we used to have the whole narrative that nothing good can come out of Bayelsa aside militancy and thuggery, but then just within this short time we could see the value technology is bringing and how people are beginning to embrace the opportunities within that ecosystem.
You know, I keep hearing you say youths, and of course I know that the younger people will be very interested in the services that you offer. Have there been any talks about you collaborating with school to supply this aspect, the robotics aspect, to the secondary and primary schools here in Bayelsa?
Yes. Okay, so before the pandemic, we actually had reached out to several schools across Bayelsa State, and then in the course of those reach outs, 2 schools actually had brought their kids, their students for an excursion to the Viosamtech Hub, where they got to see real time how they could begin to program, how they could build robots, how they could fly drones. And it was very fascinating for most of them because it was the first time that they were seeing this kind of thing. Even though there's the computer science that they say is studied in the school, but most of them were so fascinated. And then we were supposed to have more schools come to the Tech Hub so they can see firsthand, and then we begin to see how we can deploy training programs in form of clubs, like robotics clubs, STEM clubs to the various schools. But because of the whole pandemic, we just stemmed down all these things and just allowed that. But this year, we already, some of our team members already on the move to various schools to see how they can begin to sign up schools for our STEM clubs. So with that, we're able to take computer programming and robotics to schools, so that and then find a way to mix it with their school curriculum, so it does not really, interestingly, STEM in a way does not interfere with the regular education, and so it's just a way of complementing. So the average kid in China should be able to do, or rather the average kid in Bayelsa should be able to do what the average kid in China and those other people are doing. So that's what we are doing, and then we've started the move already.
Very interesting. There's something I watched again on on social media during the pandemic. I saw in a country, Rwanda, if I remember correctly, robots were interfacing with the patients rather than doctors. You understand? So that takes me to see we've had so much of advancements technologically just in this short period. 4 months, we have seen developments that interestingly could have taken like 10 years. So how are we positioning Bayelsans to be a part of that revolution, and what opportunities do we have available to us that we can take advantage of?
Okay, one of the first things that I will always want to point out is that the government has a very huge role it needs to play in terms of supporting and then pioneering technology advancements. So let's take a cue from states like Lagos. Now, Lagos has been, right, even before the COVID-19, they had been deliberate in seeing how they can drive technology development. So they started up a program called Code Lagos, and it was a free program where Lagosians, regardless of your tribe, you can learn how to code. So they deliberately were doing that, and they partnered with local libraries and schools, and then they're bringing in people to come learn how to code. And they've created series of programs from hackathons to incubation programs that will actually bring the creativities of young people out, and then they can begin to channel that energy into building Lagos State and then building solutions that will also empower them financially. And so for Bayelsa State, I think Bayelsa State also needs to take that front seat of seeing how it can now begin to create priority programs that will drive technology development in Bayelsa State. There's a whole lot technology can do. Just today, even just early this morning, I had somebody who was talking to me about a solution that he developed. The solution could actually measure air pollution. So what he did there was it can measure air pollution, it can measure temperature and humidity as well. So he does yes. So funny enough, we were talking about how we can now begin to transfer that knowledge to other people. So we can now begin to have people who can now model different hardware solutions that can be used for various purposes. And so if the government now can begin to say, okay, this is the kind of this is where we want to go, and this is the required knowledge that we need to be able to get to this position, then they should begin to see how they can begin to put in priority programs and all the rest to support technology development. Outside the government, there are private individuals, public sector players that can also see, okay, this is my community, this is where my business is. What can I do in terms of support to see that more young persons are off the street, and then they channel their energy towards technology and then begin to build solutions that will also help them. So that's the kind of drive and I believe that if this is put in place in the next 2-3 years, we'll begin to see a deliberate move in how the economy of Bayelsa State is going.
Fantastic. Many years back, we used to hear the future of work in 30 years, the future, but now we are in the future. And also this future is kind of scary, if you don't prepare for the future, you're not a part of that future. So there is this awareness that soon robots will take over everything, and technology and human beings will become redundant. So what advice do you think, or what do you think we can do so that we do not become redundant in future?
Okay, so let me put this at first. I used to say that life is not static. Life is dynamic, and so even as individuals, there's need for us to deliberately see how we can begin to improve what we already know, and then start adding new knowledge. Someone like me, I came from an engineering background, but then I'm fully in tech. I do branding, I do marketing, I do accounting. Interestingly, and so it's this added knowledge that's giving me the advantage to be able to position myself for better opportunities. And so as individuals, we need to deliberately see how we can begin to put ourselves to getting to know the trends. As new innovations are coming, new opportunities are bettered for people to begin to fill in. Presently, there's a huge need for people to come into the field of cybersecurity, and they've not even gotten there, and we've not gotten up to 20%. And so, yes, not even in Bayelsa, in Africa as a whole. So imagine, so there's a need for people to even begin to take up skill sets in cybersecurity. Of course, we still have in quotes the whole fraud and all the rest. And sometimes we get to imagine that, okay, my phone gets stolen now, and then there's nobody that can actually track that phone almost in the next 24 hours. There's a lot of process that goes on and all the rest, and then it goes. But then in some developed parts of the world, if something gets missing now, it can be found almost immediately. It can be tracked almost immediately. You can be tracked real time. And also there's this gap, and then we have, in fact, funny enough, Africa, Nigeria, Bayelsa State has a large workforce that can begin to position itself and say, okay, this is the way the world is going to. Let us begin to acquire new knowledge so that we can fill into those new industries and new skill set or new positions that will be bettered. So we just need to deliberately begin to improve on our knowledge.
And this is what Bayelsa Tech Hub offers to Bayelsans and also Africa at large, not limited only to Bayelsa, because seeing what you did during the pandemic, you had online courses and you had people reach out to you from other parts of the continent. Yeah. And finally, how can you rate the Bayelsa Tech Hub in comparison to other tech hubs in Nigeria and also on the African continent?
Okay, it's an interesting question. And usually I would not like to rate what we do, but then from a personal point of view, or then from the understanding of the entire tech ecospace, Bayelsa Tech Hub actually has been doing amazingly well in terms of the impacts we were able to create even in the short time of our existence. And then beside the daily activities we try to create, the impact we try to create, and the Bayelsa Tech Hub has been able to position itself that certain things that setting milestones that other tech hubs they say maybe it was a 10-year milestone, we were able to hit that in just 1 year. We were able to achieve that, and then it's good. And we understand that this is as a result of the continuous, what's it called, the awareness for people to begin to embrace technology. So for us, we're able to achieve a lot of things shorter. For example, the Bayelsa Tech Hub actually got into the Afri Labs. It's a network of hubs across Africa. And interestingly, we are just a year old. And then one of the criterions, or the criterion to joining that organization, is that you have to be existing for 2 years. But we're just, in fact, at that time, we were not even up to a year. But then because of the impact that they were seeing us, do, we got into Afri Labs. Beside Afri Labs, we also been a member of a lot of hubs network across Nigeria and Africa. We belong to Startup South. It's a network of hubs across the South and Southeast region of Nigeria. We got to be a part of the NCC database of hubs across Nigeria. We also have been a part of the NITDA ecosystem of hub administrators. And so we'll be able to deliberately hang on relationships and then build on from there. Presently, we got into the hash code. It's a program organized by Google, and the Bayelsa Tech Hub, this is our the first time. And then interestingly, we are not up to 10 hubs, and Bayelsa Tech Hub is one of the hubs that is hosting the hash code across the country.
Wow, that's
and so it's incredible with the what we're able to do. And then we know that this is just a little. There's a whole lot that we can achieve, but then compared to other hubs, we've seen other hubs. In fact, our social media platform is one of the most engaging presently. Besides some other ones that are good, are big players, our hub is one of the most engaging across social media platforms. And so that's the leverage for us, because we can use that. And in fact, we've been using that to reach out to prospect partners and the IOCs and then international NGOs to see how they can begin to partner with Bayelsa Tech Hub and accomplish their own corporate objective as well.
It has been really educational and very inspiring hearing you speak. Thank you very much once again for giving us your time and also your space. When we return, we'll be speaking with Mr. Angaye Seimokumo. He is the director of Viosamtech Nigeria Limited, dealers in software development and also robotics. So our second guest is Mr. Angaye Seimokumo. He is a director at Viosamtech Nigeria Limited, dealers in software development and also robotics. And he is also a partner in Bayelsa Tech Hub. And I call him the idea planter. Mr. Seimokumo, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on our program.
You're welcome.
You have a very interesting robotics lab here.
Okay.
And I would like you to take us on a tour
Okay.
to your robotic lab. I'm sure our viewers will want to learn a thing or two. We are in the robotics lab of Bayelsa Tech Hub. So over to you, Mr. Seimokumo.
This is the Bayelsa Tech Hub and this is the robotics lab. And these are some of our equipment that we have here. This is a 3D printer.
Okay.
This is a 3D scanner. And this is a microscope. In fact, out of these three, one of my favorite is the microscope.
Okay.
Because a lot of people do not talk about microscience in this part of the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
So before you go further, I'm sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
I usually see this in biology classes. What is it doing in a robotics lab?
Okay. Like with the advent of COVID-19 and in fact pandemics, now people now find it in fact as a very serious fact to study diseases. And these days, a human cannot sit down for, let's say, 70,000 hours and study 1 million samples. Okay. So you can actually teach a computer to actually now look at these samples, conduct tests, and at the end of the day, this computer is going to analyze the results and then tell us who is infected, who is not infected, and we can actually now use the computer to do automation.
Okay, exactly.
Yes.
So tell us about the 3D printer.
Okay, now the 3D printer is a very fascinating machine. So a 3D machine actually, in fact, prints any object to near perfection.
Okay, okay.
What the hand cannot sculpt, the 3D machine, the 3D printer is actually going to sculpt it. And it does the X, the Y, and the Z axis.
So there was a little boy I saw driving a little robot around. Can we just see what he has created?
Yes. His name is actually Abraham.
Yeah. You are welcome to Upshift with Benny. Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Abraham and this has been my #1 dream to build this kind of robots. It has been an inspiration.
Okay, so can you tell us what your robot can do?
It can grab anything I want it to grab, and it can spin, it can move anywhere I want it to move. That's it just for now.
How long have you been studying robotics?
For now, it has been 6 days.
6 days?
Yes.
And in 6 days you have done this?
Yes.
This is amazing, Abraham.
It's just by inspiration and decision making. And when I mean decision making, I mean putting my mind in what I'm doing. That's what made me doing this kind of things.
So what inspires you?
What inspires me is inspiration. I'm inspired by doing this, and it has been, as I said, it has been my #1 dream.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abraham. Thank you. I wish you many more years of inspiration and more creativity.
Thank you.
Thank you once again. It's been really inspirational hearing you talk, and I hope that the children which you have dedicated your life to would really appreciate and learn from all that you do.
Okay. Thank you, ma.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. So viewers, we have come to the end of today's episode, and I hope you were inspired as much as I was inspired. So till next week, bye-bye.